So good afternoon, Facebook land. It's Caroline Carrington, and I am delighted that you are joining me on this Facebook Live today. I am continuing to want to do more of these, to tune in with you all and get your questions so that we can really stay connected as we orbit our own journeys in this world. Welcome, Scott. Thanks for tuning in. So I'd love it as you join the call if you share in the comments below where you're tuning in from and perhaps even how you're feeling today. And I'm starting with that for those of you that are willing to share vulnerably, because I'm going to start with a pretty intimate update from the last few months. While I've been actively engaged on Facebook, I have been on a pretty deep dive especially the last 5 months of a profound healing journey and a lot of introspection and work on myself, which has allowed me to turn the focus back on me as opposed to always wanting to give out, which I love to do, but one has to be really coming from a place of abundance and fullness to have the ability to give. So sort of started with the fires. That was kind of the kickoff point for me in Northern California, which some of you may know about. That personally impacted my family, and that took me on a very deep dive to go and look at some of the old patterns I was running and to heal trauma that was still playing tapes in the background of my mind. And it's been really intense. I'd love to tell you that it's been pretty and fun, but it's honestly been quite horrendous, and I wanted to run away from it a lot of the time. But as I'm starting to emerge out of the other side, I'm starting to reap the gems. And thank you for your kind compliments, Al. I so appreciate that. But I'm starting to reap the gems, and anything that is not in alignment for me in my life, including people and relationships, are falling away. And while that might sound romantic, the experience of it certainly has not been that for me. It's been a pretty grueling process of me learning to really rely on the forces that are bigger than me. I'm venturing off into the woo now, but to really realize that this work and this dharma that I'm walking out into the world, dharma is like your life path or your life calling, that it's so much bigger than me or anything that I can control. And yeah, really learning to surrender and let go. So I'm grateful for my fantastic teachers, because even as a teacher, I have teachers too. I think we all need teachers. And they've really been guiding me and giving me some tough love to really support me in stepping into more wholeness and fullness. So that's been kind of on the personal level. And I feel often when we do our own healing work, we actually are doing that on behalf of ourselves, but often we're also doing that on behalf of the collective as well. And it feels like right now, in so many aspects of life, but specifically with the Me Too campaign, that it's almost like we're lancing the wound. This is a pretty gross metaphor, but that the pus is all seeping out. All the ugliness that has been hidden for a long time is oozing out. And it's just like my own process. It's not pretty and it's not fun. And people are being taken down. But I think it's really important we do this work. And I know in both the Tantra and the sex educator world, there have been at least 3 people that I know of that have been taken down in a very serious way. I don't want to freak you out talking about the shadow so much, but if we really want to get to the light, we've got to make friends with the shadow and know our shadow. And the more intimately we understand our shadow, then we can choose to ride that versus the shadow overcoming us. So I'm loving all the beautiful people that are hopping on to join in this video. Thank you. So all the while this has been happening, I launched a Tantra school, which some of you know about, called Sarasa Tantra. I put a link up at the top of the video in case you don't know how to spell Sarasa. It's spelled S-A-R-A-S-A, and you can check us out at sarasatantra.com. And I launched this Tantra school with my wonderful colleague and friend, Julia Tindall. And I really feel like a big part of why we started the school was to invite in a school that was really choosing safety and integrity as the cornerstones of what we're offering. And integrity is a core value of mine. And I really like the alignment that Julia and I are holding. And we have a teacher training that starting in May, and the second module is in June, where we started, our first one was last year, where we're training people who want to be Tantra teachers, who want to carry this lineage forward and filling in the gaps for a lot of the basics, actually. I see many trainings teaching so many advanced practices, but teachers aren't actually taught the foundational pieces that need to be in place to really be successful in this work. So that training is called the Sarasa Tantra Group Facilitator Training, where we support you in learning how to teach Tantra classes. And we actually explore pretty basic practices, but we run drills and we get you to actually be teaching in the classroom and receiving live feedback from both Julia and I as your teachers, and then also from your peers. So everybody is stepping up to be a teacher, and that was really powerful. So that was last year. That was one of the first parts of Sarasa Tantra. And from there, I hand-selected a group of 9 people for my mentorship program. And while that was certainly a deep dive for the students that chose to engage, and this is a very exclusive invite-only mentorship program, they also challenged and stretched me so much. So in the mentorship program, I'm mentoring people how to do private sessions and do hands-on energy work and Tantra. And that's the most advanced training that I've done to date, and was phenomenal for me to expand into teaching these things that I now do seemingly so effortlessly in my sessions. And so beautiful to watch my students really step into their own power and step into their own expression and find their own voice in this practice and their offerings in the world. I have been brought up in many traditions, in that, and I mean brought up in my Tantra practice, because I've engaged a number of different teachers so that I could really find my own voice in my expression of Tantra, because I don't think there's one way to practice. The way I teach and the way I always invite my students to engage is by learning the techniques and then making it their own, right? Learning the sadhana or the practices, and then kind of going beyond the practice and really feeling into what is true for them. So the mentorship program ended just a couple of weeks ago, actually, and I graduated some amazing new Dakas and Dakinis, and I'm very excited to see where they will go with this work. And it was amazing the amount of work I had to do on myself to be able to support these students. And not only working on myself, but really relying on forces so much bigger than me to support me in delivering this training. And I created this mentorship program because I was seeing a lot of people doing hands-on healing work, especially in the area of sexual healing, where their shadows were running the show and there was such a lack of integrity. And while I couldn't go and change other people, I actually tried. I tried very hard. But people don't always want to hear feedback if they're out of alignment. And if any of you have found that in your life before, you're welcome to pop some likes on this video or comment below and let me know. But I went to some of my teachers and I said, I think you're out of alignment here, or this isn't working. And they didn't want to hear me. So training these Dakas and Dakinis and these Tantra teachers has been a way where I could hold people to my own standards and then hold, thank you for the likes, and then hold people accountable to me. And that's sort of my solution. I've also been on a deep journey with really getting aligned with who I want to be teaching with. And I'm now exclusively teaching with Julia Tindall. That may not always be the case. I'm open to change and possibilities. And even as I'm announcing that on this Facebook Live, I'm noticing myself get nervous because there's been so much change in the last few months. But who knows what the future will hold. But that's where I am in this moment right now. And Julia and I, we bring a wealth of different traditions. She is a Hatha yoga teacher. She teaches a lot of asana, or the body postures. She's also amazing in that she has traveled the world and led retreats around the world for years. She's also a teacher of something called Jnana. That's Jnana, Jnana. If you're at home, you might try saying that word. Jnana yoga, which is wisdom or insight yoga. And that's a lot of looking at the shadow, looking at kind of the unconscious places that are running the show and bringing those to the light. And Julia also studied with Margot Anand, as have I, but Julia did her teacher training with Margot Anand. And, then I bring in both neo-tantric and classical tantra. I'm bringing in more and more of the mantras and the work with the gods and goddesses in the tantric traditions, because so often those are missing out in the West. And I don't know how we teach Tantra without mantra. That was actually always innate for me. So while I'm still I'm still a student of the mantras myself, and I'm still learning about many of the deities, it's my intention to highlight and bring forth a place where people at least start their inquiry and then can dive even deeper with teachers that are much more knowledgeable than myself. So I'm talking about all of this because I've been really quiet with you guys on Facebook Live, and it's one of my favorite mediums to engage. But I've done that because I've really had to focus the last few months, and I honestly haven't had the bandwidth to do that. And as I'm starting to feel more freedom, I'm wanting to share a little more with all of you. So as I mentioned, Julia and I have our Sarasa Tantra group facilitator training coming up towards the end of May, and I will pop the links in the comments for you later. But in order to get into the teacher training, you either have to have done a prerequisite with another school or have had extensive Tantra experience. But what we really would love is for you to come and join us on one of our retreats. And we have two incredible options coming up for you in the next few months. Joshua Tree, which is in Southern California, has incredible energy. It just has such magical energy, and I love it there. And I love it there so much that Julie and I are going to be leading a retreat there next month. It's actually only a couple of weeks away, March 2nd to the 4th. We're going to start on the Friday evening and go through to Sunday. And it's going to be amazing. We'll eat beautiful food, and we'll be soaking up the desert energy, as well as engaging tantric practices and doing some hatha yoga and chanting mantra and exploring tantric ritual in the form of pujas. The word puja means to worship. So we're going to lay some of the foundations. And that is one of the prerequisites to get into this group facilitator training later in the year. And then in April 7th to the 14th, Julia and I are going to a magical little bay called Yalapa in Mexico. And Yalapa, the closest town to it is Puerto Vallarta, which many of you may already have heard of. And you can't even get to Yalapa with a car. There are no cars there. They keep it really idyllic and super laid back and relaxed. So you actually have to take a boat from Puerto Vallarta to get there. And it's this beautiful idyllic bay that reminds you of Tahiti. And we'll be staying in these little chalets that are right near the sea. You can go to sleep with the sound of the waves and literally fall out of your little chalet right onto the beach. You don't even have to get in a car. You can literally just take a few steps and you're there. And we'll be immersing for a whole week in tantric magic. And the people that have come on retreats with us in the past have really spoken to how profound it is to drop in for a whole week and leave aside all the cares of the world and all the responsibilities and just swim in these tantric fields that we co-create together. So for all of our events, we actually welcome you as an individual or as a couple or even a triad if you prefer, but you don't need to have a partner to attend. And for the trainings I've referenced in this video, we're actually practicing clothes on, unless of course you want to go skinny dipping in the ocean at night in Mexico. But the trainings, some people have this misconception that you have to have, you have to be fully nude and you have to interact sexually completely with all these partners. That's not what we're teaching at all. So it's really about learning to expand your consciousness and expand into the most incredible version of you that you can be. So these trainings are designed to empower you and support you, not only for the week, for example, in Mexico that you're with us, but even beyond that. And you can look at some of the reviews on the retreats themselves, but people come and say, wow, that whole week was life-changing, spending it with you. So I'm really delighted that the next few months are going to be rich and busy. March 2nd to the 4th will be in Joshua Tree for the Sarasa Tantra Joshua Tree Retreat. And we have a few spaces left for that. There are last minute only tickets because the early bird discounts have already sold out. And then for our Escape to Paradise Tantra in Mexico, you can join us in Yalapa. And both of those trainings are really the prerequisites. You can come to both if you like. We'd love to have you. But you really only have to do one of them to then qualify for the Sarasa Tantra group facilitator training. And that happens in Oakland at the end of May and the end of June. And once you've completed that, you're eligible to be invited to participate in my mentorship program. So I just wanted to sort of give you the progression. And this path is so powerful. I love waking up every day and doing something so meaningful that literally changes people's lives every single day. And I get incredible feedback from my students and I watch them blossom. And it's, I used to work in the corporate world where I was just sort of stuck in a cubicle and I was shuffling papers around all day and making other people money. And that really, I'm clearly not motivated enough by money because that didn't do it for me enough to stay. But when I watch somebody come to me with tears in their eyes, thanking me for the deep impact that my teachings have in the ways they've impacted them and touched them, it's so incredibly fulfilling. So I want to invite you all to have that experience. And we're giving you lots of ways to plug in and play. I also, if you're looking for something local, I do pujas about once a month. But those sell out so fast, I can hardly put them on the calendar quickly enough. So I just wanted to share, I felt inspired today as I came back from my own healing session to just give you guys a bit of an update and share with you where I'm at and invite you to come and join me and to join Julia in Joshua Tree and in Yalapa to experience the magic for yourselves. So feel free, if you haven't done so yet, to pop in the comments below where you were tuning in from today. And if you have any questions, either now in the last few minutes of this video or afterwards, you're welcome to ask them and I'll do my very best to answer. If I'm not the right person for you, I'd be happy to point you in the direction of somebody who is, as far as I know. And I just want a big part of why I teach Tantra is to give back. It's been such an amazing gift in my life. And I know how powerful this modality is. And I want as many people as choose to have access to this in the world. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for letting me share my joy and my expansion with you. And I'm thrilled to, at least today, be feeling back in this place and creating a template with all of that for you. So I'm sending love and blessings into your day, and I look forward to our next opportunity for in-person connection. Namaste, and have a beautiful day.